Hello, a big welcome to our viewers. Today is Thursday, June 9th, 2022, 488 days to the next presidential and legislative elections in Liberia. My name is Mohamed Sirleaf. I'm sitting in for Dennis Jazz. So in today's edition of Talking Thursday, we are going to be discussing the um, political scene. We're going to be looking at the political scene. Mainly, we're looking at four candidates, including the incumbent President George Weah. So, in addition to President Weah, we're going to be looking at opposition candidate Joseph Boakai, Alexander Cummings. We're also going to look at opposition candidate Tiawan Gongolo. So three opposition candidates in addition to the incumbent. So basically, what are we looking at in this program? So we're looking at the prospects for 2023, challenges, things that they have to do to win, things that they will do to win the elections in 2023, or things that they may do to get a slip up or something of that nature. In the United States, there's always these surprises around elections. So is there any such surprises when it comes to Liberia? So today we will be discussing these issues and more. With me to discuss that is, of course, our chief political analyst from the city of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, a city of brotherly love, Mr. Wilmot Kunney. Mr. Kunney is a big supporter of President George Weah and President Weah's CDC-led government. Mr. Kunney, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you for the very brilliant introduction.
And by the way, Mr. Kunney is the proponent of the one-term theory. Mr. Kunney has traveled to Monrovia to see he saw the president while he was in Monrovia. And Mr. Kunney not only represented FOL in front of the president, he did let the president know that he is the proponent of the one-term theory.
One round victory.
Oh, the one round victory on this platform. So he is a big supporter of the president of the Republic of Liberia. Also with me to dissect these issues is my dear brother, Ahmed Sirleaf. Ahmed Sirleaf from the state of Minnesota. Ahmed is our governance consultant and a big intellectual. Ahmed, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you, Mohamed. It's a pleasure to be here again, yet on another Tough Talking Business of FOL tonight.
Thank you. And by the way, Ahmed, another way of saying Mohamed Sirleaf, you just say Ahmed Sirleaf. It's the same.
It's the
same. Okay, good to be Ahmed. Last but not least is my dear friend and brother from Luke's and Tenebris, Comrade Kehleboe Gongolo, from way back in time, my 404 buddy. And those who have not visited 404 will not understand what 404 is. But, if you've been up the hill, you will know what 404 is. So, Comrade Gongolo, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
My pleasure. And I'm happy to be always here.
Well, good to have you. And so today we will be looking at what will Weah do to lose this election? What can he do? Is it already in the bag for him? Is there anything that he can do that will, serve as an impediment in order for him not to win re-election? Or is he on the right trajectory to already win? And there was a sort of a snap, it could be a snapshot. A survey recently, actually it wasn't a survey, was really an impromptu interview by FOL in some part of Monrovia, and about a dozen participants, and in that interview, picked the president, and we're talking maybe 16, 17 participants. 12 out of 17, 12 out of 18 picked the president. Of course, this is just, is a very, very, very small sample size. But it could, if you expand that, then we're talking, serious challenges for the opposition. So I'd like to go to you, Mr. Kunney, as a supporter of the president and a proponent of the one-round theory. What do you think that the president can do to ensure re-election?
Well, firstly, I just want to state that in politics, you don't take anything for granted. You don't take the voters for granted. You don't take the entire political environment for granted. You have to stay in tune. You have to be on top of your game. Having said that, there is no doubt in my mind that the Coalition for Democratic Change, the president, that they will march to victory come 2023. There is no doubt in my mind about that. You asked a specific question without wasting any of your time, what the president has to do to win. What the president has to do is to continue to work for the Liberian people. You see, our people are very wise. They see things. When people do things, they see it, and they remember the things that you do. So the president will just have to continue. Despite all of the challenges, the president will have to continue the development agenda that he's currently carrying on. The infrastructure development that is going around the country, the road construction. We understand that the Rawa feed to Monrovia Highway is one of the projects that is in the pipeline. We even understand there is another park, the PHP park, that is in the pipeline. And then the construction of local housing throughout the country. Some counties have gotten some of those houses, some counties have not. So basically what the president needs to do is to actually continue on that path. Of course, he has to continue to maintain the peace in the country, to reconcile the Liberian people, and ensure that basic goods and services, essential goods and services are available to the people as they are, that government workers, which form the largest sector of our labor force, continue to receive their monthly salary as it is current. I want to believe if the president continue on that path, in the absence of any real alternative from the opposition, there is nothing really that can stop the president from winning. And actually winning a one-round victory. I mean, I'm not talking about going to the second round. I'm talking about the president winning this thing in the very first round. I see it clearly, and it's blinking all over the place.
Okay. Kehleboe, what do you suppose is a prescription for the president? Mr. Kunney laid out different things that the president can do, including continuing with development projects that he is undertaking at the moment. We're not going to sit here and dismiss those things that, I mean, he has done something. It may not be enough, but he has done something. So what do you suppose it's his prescription for victory?
What the prescription for victory for the CDC, I would say, is total reversal of the course they're on now. Total reversal. They should actually probably fire the entire cabinet, starting with the finance minister. Fire the entire cabinet, because the cabinet is doing a bad job. They are not advising the president. So if the president can muster the political will, the courage to dismiss the entire cabinet and bring in fresh blood to start a new program, a new promise, I think it will be in the right direction. But if they continue the course of plunder and theft of public resources they've been on since 2018, if they continue that, I'm not sure Weah can even make a second round. Because since Weah came to power, all that he has engaged in has been from one bad decision to another, leading to the plunder of state resources. That's all he's been on. All of what you're talking about is good to build rule. Rule enhances market access to market. Rule enhances safety, public safety as well. We acknowledge all of these things, but they are not just, they are linked to bread and butter issue, but they are not necessarily bread and butter in the South. If the economy is not improving because of bad economic policy, you can have the best of rule. It's not going to lead to a better economic outcome. So there are countries around the world that have even better roads, and the economy is in the trash as well. And Liberia is no exception. So we have a president that has no interest in the job he was elected to do. He's actually on vacation, and that's what has been happening since 2018. He has few handlers unelected handlers who are making decisions for the country, and Weah is on vacation. It's merrymaking. If he continues that path, unfortunately, Kunney will have to be out of job by January 20.
Thank you. So, Ahmed, I mean, this show is so important, right? What we're doing now, people tend to accuse us sometimes of, just being, overly negative, and we don't have anything good to say. But here we are sitting here, performing our patriotic duty, right? We're being political pundits today. I mean, we're just here now offering free advice. If these guys care, they need to listen to this. This is very important. So we're not only talking, opposition, what the opposition need to do, or what the opposition cannot do, but we're here actually providing a prescription, a sort of roadmap for the CDC to follow. And so, in your view, as someone with an extensive experience in the government and nonprofit sector as well, and so what do you think that the CDC can do, particularly the president can do to be able to win re-election in 2023?
Thank you, Mohamed. If you ask the CDC people, they might say, what are you talking about? We're doing all the right things. Mr. Kunney always says that here on Focus on Liberia. And when you speak to friends who are in government in Liberia, they don't see anything wrong. They believe that they're governing well. They believe that the president's administration is the best. In fact, they say that this is the best president we've had since Topman, maybe, if not better than President Topman. And so it's difficult to try to, give some prescription or some advice or observation. But like you said, what we're here to do is to give an objective analysis based on what we know, based on what we see happening in our country. With that out of the way, I think it was Mark Twain who said that elections, there are two pathways to elections for opposition politicians, and there are three pathways for incumbents. The first is, elections have a structure, and the structure is the infrastructure that a candidate puts in place, a political organization, a strategy, a message for different groups, different constituencies, to really understand the problem in order to drive that political organization to victory. And then the second is, so that structure. And then you have processes, there are processes, whether you are the incumbent or an opposition, that you have to deal with in an electoral context. You have to deal with election laws. You have to deal with, civil society. You have to answer to the free press, if the press is free. and the international community and so forth and so on. So there are other demands on the political process in terms of elections. And for an incumbent, the incumbent now will have to realize that an election or this, for instance, in the case of President Weah, this will be a referendum on the last 5 years, of his presidency. Many have said that it will be answering the question, is your life better now? Has your life been better over the last 5 years or so? Have you felt so safe? How's the country doing? Are the people happy?
So to that point, not interrupt, but to that point, do you think, in your assessment, that he's doing what he's supposed to do? Do you think that he's doing a good job, the job that he promised to do?
Sheriff, you started by saying, I think it was Mr. Gongolo who said the president's doing some good things. He has done good things. Look, every president does good things. You elect people in office, they do things because you have the authority of the state. You have the legitimacy to make political decisions, governing decisions, and run a government. And therefore, by virtue of the state authority, you ought to do good things. Now, the question is, what's in the details of these good things that the president is doing? Does the government really understand the current needs of the country? Is the government strategically focused on the bread and butter issues, or at least what leads to the bread and butter issues? How's the private sector doing? How safe do the people feel? How's the energy situation? It's electricity in the country. Do people feel safe in the country? And when we say this, they say, listen, you sit in America and ask these questions. Do people feel safe? Now, I'm there regularly, so I do know the questions I'm asking and what I'm talking about, right? And the harmonization, for example, happened. How are people feeling? Is money circulating in the economy? And they will say, listen, some of these things are beyond our own reach. Some of them are global factors, which is true. The inflation we're seeing now, some of the challenges and shocks that we've experienced as a result of the pandemic and what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. Granted, a president has to, despite all challenges, make sure that his or her people are at such a place where they can say, we want to bet on this president. We know that everything hasn't been all right, but what has happened so far, we think that we prefer this president to the other candidates. And so, to conclude here, I think President Weah has a great opportunity to pivot. There's some big things that have been gone right. And so I think if they pay more attention to the people, those basic social contracts, relationship between the governed and the governance, I think that they'll have a prospect for an electoral, better outcome during 2023 elections.
Thank you. And so to wrap up on this point, Mr. Kunney, do you so I know you're going to say, he has done enough, but what do you make of because I take that very seriously when our people went out to interview about 24 potential voters. We're talking about a country with no opinion polls. I mean, nobody, the journalists are not doing their job of at least going out, even in Monrovia where they sit. I mean, I can understand if you don't go to Zwedru, if you don't go to Sanikoli, I can understand that, logistics and whatnot. But you're in Monrovia, supposed to be going out there, talking to voters. We're 488, about 500 days, fewer than 500 days now, less than 500 days to election. So there are no polls. But one of the things I was tracking was, the FOL correspondent went out to a small community, a small business center, and interviewed about 24 people. And out of that number, the president carried majority. How explain to me why that is? I mean, in the midst of high unemployment, catastrophic performances by this president, high gas prices, which is not of his making. bad decision that that Kehleboe mentioned. Why would these people, out of all of this, say, we're going to vote for him?
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a shout out to FOL for that little experiment, because that confirms some of the things that we say here. You have all these armchair analysts, you have all the Facebook politicians, people that sit on Facebook and try to give descriptions to what is actually obtaining on the ground in Liberia, as opposed to people that are actually on the ground that are being impacted by the daily activities of living in the country. And these are the people who are the direct witnesses to what is going on. Now, what you say is kind of reflected in, I just want to pick up on what Brother Ahmed said, that yes, the election that is coming, I agree with Ahmed that yes, it is a referendum. Any election when an incumbent is a referendum on the incumbent, but also it is a choice decision that the people will have to make. So what I say here is that, look, the Liberian people are wise. The challenges are there. Nobody dispute the challenges. Nobody dispute the difficulties. But people are able to make sense of the availability of resources to this government and the challenges that are prevailing. And they are able to determine that in the face of all of these challenges, they are seeing the effort that the government is making to address some of the issues that face our people. The intelligentsia, they don't recognize these things. Take, for example, they look at the park. They all criticize the park. Oh, what's the park? The park is, is under constructed. The park not necessary. Look, Brother Sherry, look at the daily influx of people to that park. See the way people go to that park. And then people say, oh, you make noise about one park. I had a discussion with one of my friends who was privileged to be in one of the Liberian chat rooms. He said, Kunney, I hear something about a park. Why everybody talking about a park in Liberia? He said, I'm in Nairobi here. We have about 15 parks. And nobody make noise about those parks. I said, yeah. But in Liberia, that's the first park. That is the first park. So people, the intelligentsia, they underestimate the degree to which the people appreciate these things. It was not just the construction of the park. The area we're talking about. That was an entire community of zinc shacks that is along that road, which the government broke down, built, and the government are giving the houses back to those people. These things make direct impact on the lives of the people. So the result of your poll is not shocking to me, because we know that despite the difficulties our people are undergoing, our people are also not only making a referendum on the president, but trying to make a choice decision. Yes, irrespective of things that are going on. Who is the alternative? Is it the ailing Joseph Yaman Boakai, who who can seem to really collect himself to say something that is, they say he wise, but some of the things he say lack wisdom. Okay. Here is a star witness for an opposition who is accusing a member of his own opposition of being a forger. So the people are monitoring these things. The intelligentsia think that the people are not watching. The people are watching. You got an opposition where one is calling the other a liar, and the other is calling the other one a forger. So the people are asking themselves, but even if the president is facing challenges, are we ready to turn our country over to a liar or to a forger? These are the decisions the Liberian people are analyzing. And then you have Ahmed Boakai for 12 years. Not only for 12 years as vice president, but for almost 30 years in government bureaucracy. What you find on the side of the opposition are prominent Liberians who feel that there is no other way to impact the life of Liberia except they sit in the presidency. That's what you have on the side. The Liberian people recognize that. Because you and I know, as individual Liberians, we can impact the character of our country without being president. There are a lot of Liberians who have impacted our country without being president. But if you hear Mr. Cummings says the only place that he can serve the Liberian people is the presidency, And then you man Boakai, who has nothing to show for 42 years, and said the only place he's waiting for, even in his 80th year, is to inherit the presidency. The Liberian people, they smell the danger that is hanging over the country.
Mr.
And
Kunney,
if they were faced with that danger and the current president, they would side with the current president.
Thank you. Mr. Gongolo, you've already, I suppose, written the president off because, you know, the prescription you laid out, he's not going to do those. He's not going to fire his entire cabinet. He has not had a cabinet reshuffle, you know, since taking office. So we know that's out of the question. So he's not gonna do that. You're gonna have the same group of, you know, incompetent folks, you know, running things around here, you know, in Liberia. So it's not going to happen. So to you now, he's done, right? Expound on that.
Listen, not necessarily. I based on my experience, I believe that when the human instinct for survival set in, sometimes people do drastically change course. You know, as we move towards 2023, if we are begins to have the feeling of the worst happening to him, losing, probably on one round, in the first round, he may just intervene to survive, to save himself. I mean, so I don't lose hope on that. But here is the logic why I thought it's important to actually dismiss the entire cabinet. Weah came to power. If you notice, no exception, all of the road projects that have been implemented under President Weah were road project agreements that were signed under the previous government. Okay? There's nothing new. The only new investor we are trying to bring in Liberia was Iboma and whatever, some group of scammers. And you got the legislature to actually give them, make Liberia to serve as a collateral. They didn't have the means. They came to the government through President Weah influence. Said, we want Liberia to serve as a guarantor, a collateral. Give Liberia to us. We'll go and put Liberia on the financial market and take loan where Liberia is a guarantor. And you pay us interest rate on that. Something the country can do for herself anyway. They didn't need that. Okay? Or something that they could even go to the World Bank. So if you have a group of cabinet ministers who have not been able to help the president or the president himself to help his government to bring in fresh investors in the country, it has been the only type of investors they've been doing is to sell our diplomatic passport. I mean, we hear different information like they sell to some quote unquote we are investors, one diplomatic passport like maybe $200,000. I mean, that's the kind of investor we are dealing with, right? So that's why it's important. If he has to survive, he actually needs to drastically change the course of direction that he's on now. I mean, and I say this with more conviction because I live in Liberia. I work in Liberia. I left Liberia in 2019. Okay, this is the only government in the history of Liberia where 9 countries, developed countries, representative diplomats, wrote a letter to the government of Liberia saying, look, we put money in the central bank to support our projects that we are supporting in Liberia. Your government has stolen it, put it back. It's never happened before. And it was shameful. And interestingly, I was a project director for one of the sub-component of a project. We could not take pay. Look, the day we're taking pay, you know what happened? The World Bank finance office in Nairobi, they said, okay, because we don't trust the government of Liberia or Weah, the last pay we're giving for this, the finance office for the project at finance ministry will go sit at the central bank, will put the money there today, put release on it. You go there, the check can slip with you. You have to encash the check the same day. It was like we were going for a rescue. We have to run to central bank, take your money out, because if it slip, it will be diverted. I'm not quoting anybody. I'm saying I'm a victim. What been highs to actually withdraw from that project, because government are putting $0 in it, but they were taking 100% of the money and say our credit will pull it back. That's the kind of government I'm talking about here. And that's the kind of government my dear brother Wilmot Kunney is defending. Okay. But before I even say anything further, I just like to make two clarifications here. The first one has to do with what FOL did, the SNAP pool. Actually, I'm a statistician. All through my life, all I've studied is mathematics and statistics, nothing else. You know, I always like to give example because I also know how to cook, and I cook very well. When you take your salt or in a season and the soup is boiling and you pull it inside, the reason you have to stir the soup before you take a sip at the tip of the spoon and pull it in your hand, taste it to see if when you do that, it gives you the sense that what that little portion, it represents the entire soup, right?
Right.
Because you stir the soup very well and you took a little dot and you pull it in your pan, you taste it, you say, the soup is done or it's well seasoned. That's how you do something. When you do snapshot like what you guys did, it's unscientific, it's erroneous. I mean, it's don't even mention on reputable channel like this, because even the call in something, the phone in thing is self-selected. It's no. I mean,
all right, let me
so
let me ask you a question to that
Yeah.
point, right? So let me ask you a question real quickly. So as a man of numbers, so you play with numbers, both statistics, as you mentioned. So there are no scientific polls and anything or surveys going on. So what do you feel? Right? What do you feel? What does your instinct? I hate to say that, but what do you feel in an unscientific way now as to who has the better chance with the four candidates that we're going to be discussing now? Who do you think has a better chance as of today's date, June 9th, 2022?
You know what? Before I land on that, I needed to make this two clarification. I noted it because when Wilmot spoke, I took that point down. So I just wanted to get this poll issue out. Okay. So this poll issue, sometimes people take snapshot, you do things like that. You bring in other metadata, maybe previous information you got, configuration of the population, different things, and to draw more insight into it before you even make a judgment, not just people passing by arbitrarily. Say, oh, just talk to it's good. It appears random, but not completely random, because you can go to West Point and you interview people in West Point. West Point seems to be traditional CDC stronghold. If you did that, you could get one result. Recently, there was a poll done in Nimba on Voice of Gomba. Councillor Gongolo got 41. I think Weah got 17. Boakai got 12. Alexander Cummings got 7. Okay? That is unscientific. When the guys called me to say, I said, no, trash that. It sounds impressive to the ordinary people. But if you look at that, it's skewed. It's one side, because that does not represent the entire country view, right? But let me say, let me quickly, when you talk of opposition, because I think we tend to fall that the only opposition in Liberia was the CPP. So Wilmot and the CDC tend to bang that, oh, if the CPP is having challenge, the opposition has vanished, which is not true. Liberia has more than 20 political parties, and I think as we go towards 2023, there will be alignment and realignment. There will be new configuration of political forces. Okay, there will be amalgamation of forces, and certainly the CDC is going to be a one-term government because they are sleeping in a world of plunder and theft of our resources.
Well, thank you. And so now we will look at, because George Weah, obviously, is not the only one in the field. So, Ahmed, we will look at another candidate, Mr. Joseph Boakai, who is the political leader and standard bearer of the Unity Party, the main opposition party. The same question, in fairness to all of the candidates. So, what can Boakai do? If you're advising him tonight, what can he do to make him win the election? Or conversely, what will he do that will cost him the election?
Thank you. So I've listened to my co-panelists here very keenly. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to revisit some of the issues that they've raised. So I'll put that to rest and address your question here directly about Mr. Boakai. As an opposition, it's not an incumbent, right? So, and the campaigns are now officially declared or open yet. And on my side gig, I advise candidates who are running for office. So I do some of the political strategizing. You have to first build the organization. I talked about elections having two tracks for opposition candidates. You have the structure that you need to pay attention to, raise the money, put in a good political organization, do the research. What Mr. Gongolo was talking about there, even here in the U.S., they call those daughter polls, random sampling is not really representative. So you haven't disaggregated anything. You can't really, it can be a very biased and skewed poll if you just, because in Liberia, we all know people they know that this radio show is advertised, they're going to conduct calling show. They pay people to call multiple times and make it look like, this candidate is favored. I saw that FOL initiative. It was at a Freeport somewhere around there, a bunch of men. So there's no demographic stratification. There were just some men who sit around the intellectual center drinking a tie and they're talking, So yes, President, we have won that, right? In terms of Mr. Boakai, you have to pay attention to the structure, put in a very good organization around you. Hire very strong people, good strategists, people who should study the country, understand the problems of Liberia, and then develop a message from there. Raise funds. I know in Liberia, when you talk to politicians who are running for office to raise funds, they say, oh, man, you can't say that. The people would think that I don't have money and I want to be president to steal, or I want to run for office to steal. So that you have to let assumption sit there that you're already well-to-do, you're wealthy, you have the means, and that's why you're in the race. But actually, in other countries, you have to raise funds. It's part of a candidate's job. You raise funds, put in the very strong organization, very competent people who are doing opposition research, who are doing demographic and district analysis, different parts of the country. What are the unique bread and butter issues? What are some of the important issues to this population, this demographic, this region of the country? Liberia is like any African country. It's not a monolithic, you have all kinds of different demographics with different political interests. Everybody wants safety, everybody wants job, they want money in the economy, they want to be able to take care of their families and so on. But there are also very demographically unique issues. that you can try to understand that, and then understand the bigger governance challenges of the country, couch the messages around those, so that when you go to each campaign through, eventually you appear before a particular group, you know the needs of this group, what sways this group. You know, you go to women, you go to rural women and urban women, they may not have the same needs, right? In rural men and urban men, young men who are educated, who are uneducated, people who live in the farthest part of the country, people who are in the diaspora. There are different interests and issues and concerns different population demographics have. And so when you understand that, you deal with the structure and then pay attention to structure. What's happening with the electoral process? Is the election commission an independent body? Does it need reform? Do you need to pay attention to that? Are you concerned that the government might do something to use the resources of the state to influence the election or the results of the elections? Are you concerned about rigging somebody, for instance, will rig the election? What do you do about that as an opposition? Do you have connections internationally? You know, are you able to do something to demonstrate to voters that actually you're not just a local guy? You know, if you become president, you'll help our country to have a strong international presence, to have a strong foreign policy presence. That all of those are things that Mr. Boakai ought to be working on. This perception that he hasn't provided leadership the way people expected in the CPP fiasco that just happened, you know, dispel some of that. Be strong on the issues of the day. What's the government doing wrong? What's the government doing right? What policy prescription do you have concrete that you can communicate to the people, even now that they'll begin to think that, you know, this candidate is a serious candidate. When I speak to people who are in the Boakai camp, they say, listen, Mr. Boakai is the most popular opposition politician in the country right now, whether you like it or not. You know, people may talk about his age, maybe rumors about health issues and whatnot, but that he holds the largest sway, and that, you know, he will, you know, is the only pathway to as an alternative to President Weah. That's what they say. So Mr. Boakai can't sit down and think that it will come to his laps, right? He has to be very alert. He has to, again, organize. He has to have money. He has to bring the right people on board and understand the issues and communicate very effectively to be a strong messenger for his own vision for the country, the direction in which he thinks that he is able to take the country to. And how does he exemplify that? How does he demonstrate that to people to convince them? Because, you know, oftentimes in Africa, we think that elections solve our problems, that you remove one batch of leaders from office, you bring another, and the country's problem is solved. No, that's not what it is necessarily, really. Right. There may be people there who don't understand the country, even. They don't know the priorities. They don't sequence policy options and policy prescription properly. They don't know how to bring resources to source funding for different, what are the capital projects, the social policy questions and things like that. So a leader who is able to really communicate that gets the people going in that direction, I think is where Mr. Boakai needs to be spending a lot of his time right now.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, so I know that your opinion is baked in this, you know, one round theory. But just suspending that for a minute, you know, taking off your hardcore CDC cap for a minute, is there a pathway to Joseph Boakai?
Look, listen. When this whole process started, there was a narrative that was developed about about Ambassador Boakai. He was a man of character. He was a man of wisdom. He was the adult in the room. You know, all of these things. He was the unifier. These were the narrative that were developed about the old man. But as time went by, we saw a contradiction in those narratives. You know, just like Ahmed said, I mean, the Liberian people first preview to the old man exercising direct leadership was with the CPP. The CPP died in the old man hand. There's no dispute about that. The CPP completely died in the old man hand. And despite his own pledge that he will fix it, Ambassador Boakai did not fix that problem. Today, they see this, the CPP is disintegrated. So that is our preview. Other people that were sharing, he was just vice president to a president. He couldn't do anything. But now he was sitting, as head of the CPP. It crumbles. It crumbles. And then you look at the surrounding. The ambassador is supposed to be a unifier. Look at the people. You see, I always say on this show, association matters in politics. Who you associate with in the political arena matters. We know it here. We know what the association, Obama's association with Jeremiah Wright, we know what it cost Jeremiah Wright and Obama. The old man is supposed to be a unifier. The old man has surrounded himself with some of the most divisive elements in our time. Henry Costa, he is the chief propagandist for the old man. George Lobo, this boy had the audacity to say that Ahmed wants to be president of the Republic of Liberia. George Lobo pitch to Southeasterners is that, you know what? Anytime we elect somebody from the South, you people are corrupt. That's George Lobo's pitch. This is the mouthpiece of Boakai. Southeastern is corrupt.
We would love to have those individuals.
No leader should come from the Southeast. And he becomes so embarrassing, he will start from President Thurman. We had 27 years of Thurman corruption. He justified these things for which he says there should be no leader coming from the Southeast. This is Boakai's inner cycle. Then you have the ambassador himself flaming the division in the Liberty Party. Flaming the division in the Liberty Party. Extracting one leader for the other. So you see that chaos and disunity. So that's why I'm saying the narrative is shattering. There is a serious contradiction in what he's supposed to be or in what people say he is. So forget the age. I'm not talking about the age here. I'm talking about the sales point. A unifier, destroy your own CPP and destroy the Liberty Party, contributing to the flame. A uniter, and you got some of your surrogates denigrating an entire region of the country, calling them corrupt, for which that region should not even put forth national leadership. And you think people are not listening? People are listening. We are listening. So I don't see the path. He seems incapable of making his own decision. If he's not directed by Henry Costa, he's directed by Benena Ure. These are the handlers of the old man. And so I don't see what path he can craft, really. And we will see his Lofa dominance. We see the election. I'm very, very happy for the decision the Supreme Court made, giving the Unity Party the chance to field a candidate in that election. And let's see Ahmed Boakai dominance of the county. Let's see where it will lead to. It will give us another sneak view into what his political assets in that county and in Liberia may be.
Viewers, if you're just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing incumbent President George Weah and the three main opposition candidates, Joseph Boakai, Alexander Cummings, and Tiawan Gongolo. So I'll go to you now, Mr. Gongolo. Joseph Boakai is, I think I heard Ahmed said that when he talked to, potential voters, when he talked to Liberians, they all agreed that he is the leading opposition candidate. And this is the thing I hear myself. So does he have a pathway to victory? And what are those pathways? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, certainly, Ambassador Boakai has a pathway to victory. But I don't know what is an easy pathway. But that pathway comes with other challenges also. First, let me deal with the positive side. The positive side is that he has name recognition. He been in the public life for so long. I don't want to throw a number out there. Some people say 40 years, some people say 42 years, some people say 30 years, some people say 25 years. Quite honestly, I have not read any book about Ambassador Boakai, so I don't want to throw a number out there. But he's been in the public life of the country for a very long time. Okay, but that's somebody I sat in meeting with, though. I sat in meeting with him a couple of times, but he didn't know me. I'm not sure you remember me. But that was like 1995, 1995, 96, around there. Okay, so because he has that name recognition, he seemed more like a traditional person, and Liberia is largely a traditional society still, even though we have mix of Western and African lifestyle, but it's still largely a traditional where elders were so much influenced to some extent in some communities. So so he has that thing. If he's able to hold on to the 2017 coalition that got in 400,000 plus votes and then expand that, it would be good for him. But he has a challenge. And the challenge he has, I think, is even much more daunting than 2017. Here are some of the reasons why I say so. In Lofa, just Lofa, the challenge in Lofa. In the Kisi land, you have the likes of Thomas Fowler, the likes of Jefferson Koji, and others. I literally, and Julie Faculty, who is from Vahon area, they are literally, these are sedition. They are literally politically fighting Ambassador Boakai. Thomas Fowler is running a pavement in the street of Weah district for the first time in the history of Weah, right? That never happened when Ambassador Boakai was vice president. So it's a positive and it's a challenge for him. And Thomas Fowler then has pitching to the people that, hey, we have less than 6 years, see the deliverables. Give us additional, follow us, and we'll do more. So it's a challenge for him in his backyard. The other challenge is in the current senatorial race. If I were him, I would rather not have put my stand on any candidate in the coming by-election. Once the CDC government politically pursued Brandon Samuka and disenfranchised him and took his victory away from him, if I were an advisor to Ambassador Boakai, we would have resisted to say, you can put whoever you want, we're not going to participate in the election. We will not recognize the result of that election. It will be a political action. It will not be legal. Whoever will be elected will be legal, right? But that person will have challenges dealing with the people locally. That, for me, would have given a safe landing because you would have been standing with the voters who voted in 2020. Now, you throw yourself in a race, you brought Galaba Kotima. By the way, Galaba Kotima is my friend. We did courses together. We were all at the university about the same time. He's a very fine gentleman. But he was also frustrated with the same United Party government and ran on CDC ticket before against Mokupi. Okay? Now, in the recent history of Lofa, you've had senators just coming from the Kisi land and the Loma land. The Loma, they are, by and large, they are the largest ethnic group, in terms of population. But I think the Mani are the third largest, or the Kisi. There are three major ethnic groups there: Kisi, Bandi, and Loma. But I think Loma is the largest. Now, the Mani people since Kehleboe photo or Koto, they've not produced senator. And that's part of what is called Lower Lofa. And in this coming race, Bato Jala is the only candidate from Lower Lofa running. all of the rest of the rest of the candidates are coming from the upper Lofa belt. Okay, and I think you have like three Loma person running. That will undercut my vote, and you have an incumbent Loma senator. Now the challenge for him is if Pato Jala wins, and he did not, he has campaigned against him. That will be a challenge for him. How does he get Pato Jala and his followers in his corner in 2023? If Pato Jala loses, it's also a challenge. Lofa could say, well, you just want a senator to be either Kisi or Loma. You have excluded us politically. It's a challenge for him. If I were him, I would have thrown my hand up and say, hey, the Lofa people should decide and don't have a choice. And the other factor that is not to be in law, if I'm talking to Ambassador Boakai, is the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf factor. We hear a lot of stuff. It's a factor that remains of concern to me analytically. I think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not happy. And I think people around Ambassador Boakai even talked about that, a couple of times publicly. It's an issue. She may not have that influence in Liberia, but there's no doubt that internationally and in West African region, she has influence. Okay, and that's a factor that Ambassador Boakai needs to work on as a challenge for him to soften the ground to bring Ellen back to the United Party fully. So there's still the Ellen factor. And in recent time, we all saw in different newspapers that United Party should be going to a convention. And there is a rumor that there will be a candidate, there will be the Ellen factor, and there will be this. If there's any yo-yo there that goes to court or to Elections Commission, they say, oh, the CPP issue was not resolved. Now you have another one in United Party. So it's actually it's a slippery slope for him. It's a challenge. And I believe he has enough wisdom. He's gonna handle this. He has a lot of experience in public service. I have no doubt he's going to do it, but it remains a concern and a challenge. If I were his advisor, those are things I will be working on 24/7. Now, let me just end on this. The 2017 coalition, that 2017 coalition, from NIMBA perspective, you have the likes of Thomas Groupie, you have the likes of Matano Getingma. They were in that 2017 coalition. Where are they today? That question should be answered. If he cannot hold on to the 2017 coalition in NIMBA, you have the likes of Councillor Zaideki, you have the likes of Dr. Yaso Waidoli, all these people, Councillor Gongolo, they were all in that 2017 coalition. If he cannot hold on to that 2017 coalition, I think it's also a challenge. In Lofa, Maramu, I forgot this.
Maran Fofana?
Yes, was part of the 2017 coalition in Lofa. She has left the United Party. She's running independent. She's from the Mandingo land. That's a challenge. So, Ambassador Boakai advisors should really be strategizing not to have any appearance or cracks from the 2017 coalition. Now, I'm sorry, I'm taking more time, Ahmed and my colleagues.
So
the
I was
2017 lesson that I think he should also learn from in 2017. That was legislature. Members of the legislature, they are notoriously corrupt since 2006. We all know that. He tried Nukwe, he failed. Now, should he learn from that lesson by taking the highest person, the Speaker of the legislature, to be his running mate? And it was a failure. Should he go back to the legislature for a running mate? I guess his advisor should answer that. But Albert Einstein said, if you get one result, you do one thing, get one result, you keep repeating it. That's a definition of something which I don't want to say. So that I will end on that.
Thank you. I think you really made a lot of salient points, and one of the things that you mentioned was, the denial of the legitimate winner of the election, of the senatorial election, Brownie Samokai. That shouldn't have gone away like that. I remember in '85 when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she actually won in Montserrado County. She won the senatorial seat in Montserrado that was eventually given to Archibald Bernard. She actually turned it down in solidarity with her coalition. She was part of the Liberia Action Party at the time, and so, and people were, I heard people saying, I know on my school campus, and people saying, but why would she just, turn down why would she just turn this down instead of working with the president? But it's so important to stand for something. And so I respected her for what she did. We have to stand for something. Otherwise, you will fall for nothing, right? So that's an excellent point. So at this time, we will take our first break, if it's all possible. We'll take our first break and come back. When we come back, we will discuss the other two candidates in the race, because it's not George Weah or Joseph Boakai. We also have Alexander Cummings. We have the up-and-coming Councilor Tiawan Gongolo, who has been an activist, a lifelong activist for the Liberian, for average Liberians. So we will look at his candidacy as well. And so we'll take our first break.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Okay, so viewers, we are back with our panel and discussing Liberia, the upcoming 2023 elections. Elections will be held in Liberia in October. I believe it's October 10th, 2023. And so we're discussing the incumbent George Weah. We're also discussing three other main opposition candidates. So at this time, Ahmed, I'll go to you now for one of the main opposition candidates, Alexander Cummings. This is very interesting. Last week, I remember we had operatives for Mr. Cummings on this show. And, Ahmed, I'm someone who believes in just being fair to everybody. And I know that, every time I come down hard on George Weah and is the opposition cheering, oh, yes, Mr. Sirleaf, I agree with you and this and that and the other. But the moment you say something about the opposition, then you're the worst. Yes, ANC people, I'm talking to you. So don't think I don't read your little comments. I read your comments. They come down hard. This sort of, so people have been so recalcitrant and entrenched in their dogma. It's baffling to me. So there's no room for, for flexibility. There's no room for rationality. So we had on the platform last week, and I'm going to go out and say this, we had, some of the most unfriendly exchanges simply for saying the right thing, simply for giving them good advice, very good advice. But the exchange was so bitter, and they are so enamored with their candidates. They're so baked, in their ideology. So talk to me about Mr. the Man, first of all, Alexander Cummings.
Thank you. I was hoping you would give me Councillor Gongolo, because the Cummings people think that
We're coming to that.
I'm very hard on that candidate. But you're right. I mean, when we had Cummings surrogates on the show, it was a very vitriolic, very toxic experience. I was I had a bitter taste in my mouth going away, because I've said time and again, politics is about winning hearts and minds. Elections, electoral politics, about winning hearts and minds. If you are in a liberal democracy, as we like to say, Liberia is a nascent democracy and so on, your role as a surrogate for a candidate is to bring more people than drive them away from your candidate. Is to sell your candidate's vision. No, everybody will not like your candidate. Everybody will not buy into your vision. Everybody will not even like the personality and how they talk and how they walk. People may not like it, not because they hate them, but because maybe the message is not sinking, it's not getting across. They don't see it, that this person is the leader for them. So I've always said to the Cummings people, I can understand the overarching message of it's the leadership style, the integrity, lack of history of corruption and doing the right things. The rhetoric that Mr. Cummings always gives us, like even today, his press conference earlier today, he said a lot of good things. I mean, those things that he said, those talking points in that speech, if there are things that he truly believes, if they're able to develop strategy and vision around those things, those are some of the very things that some of us have been saying that Liberia needs. We need to go beyond being contented with, with a spokespark. The president has to dedicate and be there every day. A city mayor should do that, Mr. Kunney. A city mayor, for God's sake, should do that. One minister should go and cut the ribbon on the park. We should have 20 parks around Monrovia. What have we come to, Liberia, that we so celebratory of a park and contented with the president? Look at the park the president has built. Look at the market hall. Those are all good. Some of our mothers, our aunties, sold in markets, open markets, and educated us and raised us. So we're not going to sit there to denigrate that. But if a country does not see itself, doesn't see the big picture, to see, listen, I'm in some kind of place, I need to extricate myself out of here. I need to develop, modernize this country, open opportunities for people. If our leaders are not brazen, they're not audacious enough to think that to really see the true problems we have in Liberia. We're in it for a long time, my brothers and sisters. So the Cummings speech today, I thought it was a good, other than him reading, counting the words. I don't know where that came from. I've listened to other speeches of his before, but he didn't really have the energy, in my view. That's my personal assessment. But the content of the message, 80% of it really sank in with me. And like I said, he's saying some of the right things that we've been saying all along. So if the Cummings people can say, and when you say this is what you're trying to say, when does doing the right thing is the bad thing? No, a lot of us here don't have corruption record. We don't have human rights violation. We're like bureau. We can stand for, the scholar that says most of the people, most adults have the rights to vote, but few adults have the right and opportunity to be elected or run for office, right? The few that have stood to run, we have to scrutinize them. We have to put them under the microscope. And the surrogates should be comfortable with that. If you don't have thick skin, don't get into politics. Don't come in the public square, because in the public square, all kinds of things happen. People discuss people. People look at people closely to see their decision making. some of what Mr. Cummings has said about Mr. Boakai, right? Listen, there's a thing called message discipline. If your surrogates are not disciplined about your message, they go off message, they attack people personally, they attack regions and tribes and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if it's fair to pin it on the leader necessarily, but it speaks of that leader's ability to see around them, like what's happening. How do you bring people back in and say, listen, I listened to that show, Henry Costa, and people didn't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't represent me. It doesn't represent my vision. It doesn't represent my message.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings should have the ability to do the same thing.
Yes.
When his surrogates go off on rampage with this whole, and I see they have chips on their shoulders, they want to burn me alive. But the thing is, in a country where, with all due respect to my country, to my people, if you went in a village in the countryside, 80% of the people in the room don't have a degree. So you can't have people in America,
Ahmed, I'll let you continue. Excellent point. There was a time here in the United States, right? A woman took the microphone and called candidate Barack Obama a Muslim, as if that's a sin.
I said,
but John McCain, the patriot, the American patriot, John McCain walked up to that woman, took the microphone away from that woman.
Yes.
Okay. That was a moment in history. And John McCain lost supporters that day.
Yes. But he did the right thing.
He did the right thing.
He held the microphone. He said, he's a fine citizen.
No, ma'am. I just happen to have disagreement with him, but yes, continue. Yeah.
I just happen to have disagreement with him on policy questions. I just happen to be running against him, right? I'm on the other side. I want to be the one to win. But no, ma'am, he's a good man, he's a good citizen.
Yes.
Those moments, we need those in our system. When we see that, then we will know our politics is maturing, that we're truly following, practicing the properties of liberal democracy. If we really truly understand, freedoms of liberties, so association, free press, civil society, and the citizens' ability to scrutinize the candidate and elect them, vote for them or vote against them. We have to be comfortable with that. So if Mr. Cummings this message can be, listen, this guy has a better vision, because of his experience overseas. Here's what he has done. Here's what he can do differently. Or he can speak for himself. Here's what I would do differently to get us from here to here. Sell us that. But if you come and say, I'm better than you, you may be better than us, but our system is such that people feel you are condescending. And the way your surrogates then are delivering that message, I think is problematic. I think they have very strong people. And he has an opportunity to have a very buoyant message and political organization to drive his campaign. But if they don't slow down, pay attention, and recalibrate, and you only do that, though, for all the candidates, you only do that when you truly know the country. You know the issues that are important. How do you want to sequence those issues to address the basic needs, the basic social paths between the people and those who are governing or those who want to govern? If you don't understand that, and you haven't taken the time to study, to know the culture, understand the political culture, the political economy, some of the big picture governance issues, private sector matters, rule of law questions, things that will make the country safe, and really understand the people, their mentality, the different demographics of the country, different regions of the country, different belief system, institutions. Political organizations must do this analysis, do the research, put things together so that when your candidate is speaking at any event to any group of people, they know how to tailor that message. They know how to be very laser focused. But I'm not saying that discipline on the Cummings side. I'm not seeing it on other sides as well, but that's what I've been saying. And people think that, it may be something, some negative energy towards the candidate. I don't know the guy, but that's what I would say for them. They may have the financial wherewithal, the resources, the international connection, maybe by hiring lobbyists and commissioning reports, trying to send signals to the West, to Washington, and so on. They may do all of those things. But Mark Twain said again, elections, all politics is local. It means understand the local issue.
Yeah.
You will get elected in Liberia if you do the right thing, not in Washington, not in Brussels, not in London. If you don't do the right thing, you can come back to Washington, you're not going to be president of Liberia. You have to be popular in Liberia, not more popular in America than in Liberia if you want to be president.
Thank you, Ahmed. Now, again, we really had these vitriolic exchanges, Mr. Kunney, and that an operative said, that racism, discrimination, racism didn't matter, and it was a peripheral issue. And so, to me, I reacted the way I did because it's not a peripheral issue. I've learned a lot. Not only I've read a lot, I've studied a lot of history here and at home, and born out of my experience. So those are not peripheral issues. And so at a time that the political leader is supposed to address himself, because what we discuss here are not peripheral issues. So if the political leader cannot come around to even, distancing themselves, right, from those operatives who make those kind of statements consistently, what kind of leadership, right? So what kind of leadership are they trying to give us? So do you think now that Alexander Cummings has a pathway to the presidency, and what are those pathways? And if not, what is he doing to, so to speak, mess this up for himself, Mr. Kunney?
Well, the thing is, I listened to the Cummings speech, and one thing you find out in that speech is Cummings does not believe anything Liberian. For anything to work, it has to have, a foreign component. There should be, for example, the man attributed the dismissal of the case to the expert that, the so-called expert that he brought. And it's stunning. The report by the so-called investigators didn't even go to court. They didn't see the Liberian court. And now it's being touted as one of the reasons why the case against him was dropped. Because Mr. Cummings does not want to give recognition to the fact that despite the challenges that our institutions are facing and will face, that we as a nation, the institutions of the country are making gradual progress. He doesn't want to recognize that. He will not recognize that until he becomes president. But the fact of the matter is, the institutions of our country, despite their drawbacks, despite their weaknesses, despite their challenges, Liberians working in those institutions, some of our citizens are putting up their best effort to ensure that our institutions produce results. The decision by the Supreme Court is one example. Let me tell you something today. The Liberian legislature, the Liberian Senate today, rejected a nominee that was clearly not suitable for the job. They will not get 100 all the time. But for opposition politicians to pretend that our country has collapsed simply because they're not in leadership is one of the most disheartening things, one of the most unpatriotic things that they can ever do to the country. So, Mr. Cummings, the case against Mr. Cummings was withdrawn because the Liberian judiciary spoke, not because he brought Tony Blair's wife to Liberia. He didn't want to acknowledge that. Then he spoke in terms as if to say, the challenges, the problem the nation faces are the problems of the last 6 years. And that's how he speak. That the problem the country faces are the creation of the last 6 years. And maybe the reason why Mr. Cummings is comfortable to talk the last 6 years is because in his adult life, He has no history of fighting for social justice. No history anywhere. For Mr. Cummings, every condition in Liberia was right. He never stood up for anything. So the only time he's standing up now is the last 6 years. So we understand that. He spoke about the fact that the war deprived him of remaining in Liberia. He left Liberia and then he was blessed. The question is, when you left Liberia and you went to foreign parts and you were blessed, when Liberia was on fire, what did you do with your blessing for the Liberian people? This is the question I continue to ask Mr. Cummings. You're a fine man. You're a very good man. But the Cummings folks will never point to you any substantive thing Mr. Cummings did prior to his political career, prior to the initiation of his political career. He was in the diaspora here. He was here with us in the United States. We all are community leaders. You know the issue we struggle with. We struggle with immigration. We struggle with adjusting our people. What was Mr. Cummings' contribution to that effort? When you had to leave your wife to go to Washington, D.C. to lobby lawmakers, what contribution did he make? So when I see these people talking their love for Liberia for the only position they want in the whole country, they don't want any other position, only that one position. That is a danger that must be averted. And the Liberian people are vigilant towards that. We need to do more. We need to awaken grassroots vigilance for these kind of individuals that want to catapult themselves to power using the challenges of our people. Our people know better. Our people are hungry. Yeah, that's true. There are people in Liberia hungry. We've been hungry for a long time. You talk about 404. Who are the opinions of 404? You understand? Our people being hungry. So you will always find politicians that want to use the challenges of our people to ride on their back and get to power. Mr. Cummings has no history of contribution predating his political career. Everything about Liberia that he cared for came about once he wanted to become president. That's my disagreement with the young man. He's a good man. He's a good Liberian. I only happen to disagree. He has no contribution in that area. He didn't contribute anything to things that are important to the diaspora. Today we're talking about dual citizenship. What is Mr. Cummings' position? Where is Mr. Cummings' position?
It's an excellent question.
He's scared. He can't talk. He wants murder away. Then you talk about boldness. This is the guy who told us the predictor of someone's behavior or his behavior tomorrow, that what he's doing today. What boldness has he shown? You can't even comment on dual citizenship. You're scared. You can't talk. Hundreds of thousands of Liberians living in the diaspora are clamoring for dual citizenship. So the point I want to make is that, look, despite our frustration, let us not accept the pretense by some politicians that our institutions are not working. That's the problem I have. You have Ambassador Boakai questioning the competence of the National Election Commission. But this is the same commission that the opposition were cheering when the commission conducted elections and they won senatorial seats. But today they are questioning the competence of the election commission, talking about the appointing powers. When Mr. Boakai was a vice president, who appointed the commissioners? That United Nations appointed them? It was his administration that appointed them. So why you think another person sitting as president should not enjoy the constitutional powers that they are clothed to make appointment? He said he doesn't believe in the system. But it boiled down to this. The opposition will be defeated, and their next step is they will cry rig election. So we're not even bothered about that. Because even if they claim victory that Weah will win, they will say that rig election. So you see planting the post.
I'm here to say one thing, right? I told somebody the other day, if George Weah goes on to win in the first round, Wilmot Kunney, will be one of the most highly sought political consultants in Liberia, because you started this on this platform and you've been consistent, and who knows? I don't know. I don't know.
It's not statistically possible. It's never happened.
And quickly before I wrap up, You know, Ahmed, look, I agree with you. What is a park? What is a park for which we should celebrate? You know, a park is not some kind of gigantic national project. But my brother, Monrovia is one of the oldest capital city in Africa. Our people have, the celebration is because our people have never seen this thing before. That what they're celebrating. That what the celebration is about.
So why?
It's like a hungry child that has been hungry. Even if you get them dry rice, they will dance for that dry rice.
But precisely, that's my point. I mean,
the ordinary people, the ordinary people understand that. The intelligentsia don't understand that. And this is what they know that these are some of the forces of the victory. Because things the ordinary people understand, the intelligentsia don't understand.
Can the city mayor do that? Ahmed said that. Can the city mayor just go out there and
and you talk about coming saying fun things. Saying fun things are the easiest part. You know how many Liberian politicians that I say the fun things? Every day they say fun things. But how many of them do the fun things? That's a challenge, Mr. Cummings. You hear me talking row. What time he ever be row? He ain't be row. So if your calling guy is row, well, we are building the road. So then just drop your bid. So saying the fun things, I mean, I can write a good speech of what I want to do. You can do that. Other of Kehleboe can do that. But what is this man record of doing fine things for Liberia before he started his political career? That's the question the Cummings camp need to answer. Don't tell me about a Cummings Foundation. He started in the political career, not before. What was he doing? What did he do for Liberia? 1990, 1995, 2002, 2003.
Thank you. Kehleboe, on Cummings now. I go to you on Mr. Cummings. Is he done? Because what I seem to be hearing, it's almost as if he's he doesn't have a chance. What do you make of this? Is he done, or I want to know from you? Again, you've been on the ground, and you look at numbers, you look at different things. Is he done?
I wouldn't say he's done, because only God can possibly make such a conclusion, because I can't predict someone's life with certainty.
Politically.
But let me say this: Cummings has some challenges, though he has some strength. He's a wealthy man. He's been blessed with he's a multi-millionaire. But I think Cummings does not understand politics. I'm tempted to believe that he doesn't understand business too, because people who understand business do easily understand politics, because business is about pitching deals to the next buyer, the next person to trade with you. And I think Cummings doesn't get this. He lacks the ability to probably face some of his followers. I mean, and I think he flip-flopped from different positions. In 2017, I was in Monrovia, and I will say this: Cummings people can challenge me on that. And if they are honest, actually, and I would not even say Cummings people. If Cummings himself is honest, you will admit to that. In 2017, one of his speeches, I believe it was either on Prime FM or one of the radio stations, he said if he didn't win 2017, he was done. He was not going to run again. He went on to say in that speech, in that appearance on the radio station, that he doesn't want to be a professional politician who just run every election. He came, he's putting forth a policy option to those who are running. If he didn't win, he's moved on to do different things with life. Okay. And I thought that was a powerful statement that he made, that he was never going to be a professional politician to just be running continuously every elections. Okay. Positive. In 2018, I met Alexander Cummings. at his office in Monrovia. I met him. And we had a discussion. I'm not his supporter, I'm one of his critics. So the former chairman of Rachel Gu actually set me up to go and meet him. And the reason why I went to meet him was, interestingly, I was floating with the idea of joining ANC. So when I was here in the US, around 2013, 2012, 2013, Kwame Clement, Wilfred passed away, Ezekiel Gongloe and all our folks. Many other folks. We actually were trying to organize here to support, fund the support base for ANC in the US. So, in fact, ANC Constitution, I serve as the chairperson to review ANC Constitution in Liberia. I'm not a lawyer, but we're looking at basically the language and the framework, along with Kwame Clement. So, when I went back home, I was actually angry that they have to give Alexander Cummings a title political leader. I took the issue of Rachel Gu. I said, this is a violation of our constitution. We were never going to have a perpetual standard bearer. If you contest in the election, if you don't win, only the chairman, the executive committee of the party continues. We're not going to have political leader. And Gu said we have to do that because we need to collaborate, and when we go to collaboration tour, they want to see political leader. They don't want to see party chairman, so we just came over there. I said, no, I don't buy that. Of course, there were other rumors that I don't want to talk about here, how he took over. So I opposed it. I said, but then, thank God I didn't join ANC, like signing membership in Monrovia. I can't continue with this moral support I was giving, and I left. So, then Gu tried to convince me. That's why I wanted to meet Cummings. When I met him, I said, look, let me tell you, one of the things you're doing wrong is that you turn yourself into an NGO. People think that you're slot machine, they come to you to get money. And that mentality, perception is powerful. If people perceive you as that person who just dish out money because you're a wealthy person, that's all you get. You're going to be a slot machine, and when you get tired, you're just going to disengage from the public. I told him that. I said you have to find out a way where your partisans contribute to the running of ANC. It can be for you. And he asked me, can you join me? I said, I can't, because I don't like the way you talk about ANC. And he looked at me and he said, is it your mother or your father that has strong character? Because you guys are very sharp and bold. And I was walking out, and he told me to go in one office. But anyway, that's a different discussion. I said, I didn't come here for that. I got in my car and I drove out. Okay? So I think the way he also carried himself, there are a lot of operatives from different political parties that we hear rumor that they're on salary for him. He's paying them. He hustled people from different political parties. He offered them this. That kind of, guerrilla operation that he was doing in a city, CPP, that actually made other partisans to actually turn against him. So you were not using his money wisely. He allowed people who he doesn't understand some of that. I told you a lot in his office that I can't even diverge some of our discussion. I told you a lot, ranging from.
But just real quickly.
So quickly on this, the first challenge, I know Wilmot may not like this, but I'm not saying that because on this channel, on Tough Talking Thursday, we turn to express our opinion, and this is my opinion. The father George Weah is from the Southeast, and he has about 80% support from the Southeast. What does Cummings bring from the Southeast on the table? So he has no base in the Southeast. So what he has been trying to do is to find base in Nimba, Bon, or Lofa, which is very difficult for him because of that stigma that, oh, why? In fact, he tried to pitch like he was related to the Cummings that used to live in Tapeta. And later we found out that he has no relationship with that Cummings. Because he was even trying, some of his supporters are trying to link into Nimba, you know. So he's looking for a base, a political base. For him not to have even one representative or senator elected from Maryland, it speaks volume. If our Cummings today, I will actually put my money behind a candidate now and say, look, I will support this candidate because this candidate and myself philosophy coincide. We have similar characteristics. The way this candidate wants to take Liberia, where he wants to take he or she wants to take Liberia is the same place I want to take Liberia.
Thank
That's
you.
what I would do. I would not rather go in the race if I were
You need
Cummings.
to
That's what I
support
would
Thank
Councillor
you,
Gonglo.
Gongolo. So what we're going to do? What we're going to
Maybe
do
you need to
now?
support Councillor Gonglo.
Well,
So
I'm not.
what
I'm not suggesting that.
what we're
I
going to
don't
do
think you would
now?
do.
Yeah, what we're going to do now before we go to our we're not going to have the callers. We're going to have the Anthony is going to get us the messages, and I'll read them. But before that, I want us to talk about the last candidate because of time. We have to
Yeah, we're
talk
going
about
up to 2 hours.
Mr. Gongolo. Mr. Kunney mentioned, the social justice issues, succinctly mentioned, expressed that, Alex Cummings has not been there when it comes to the fight for, social justice. And he enumerated a whole host of areas where he has been missing. And that's a valid point. So someone who has been there on the social justice issues is Councillor Tiawan Gongolo. And so he is a candidate in this coming election. So let's talk about Mr. Gongolo and what he brings to this campaign and what are his chances? What are his chances, in this election of winning the whole thing? Because he is considered one of the serious candidates in this race. He has stated that he's not in this just just to support someone else or to be a second fiddle to someone else. He's in this to win. So Ahmed, he's in it to win. Will he?
Well, yeah, it's possible he could win. Look, politics is unpredictable. I remember when Goodluck Jonathan was running for a proper term, actually, for himself after Omar Yar'Adua died. I think he was running against Buhari the first time. A very good Nigerian friend of mine who was very deep in that politics said, listen, we have a terrible field. The people don't like Jonathan. People don't want Buhari, but we have to elect the president. And so when you have a situation that there's a sense of apathy, people are not enthusiastic about candidates. Anybody, you can break the carrot anywhere. You can break the stick anywhere, right? But the thing, and I have spoken to Councillor Gongolo himself before. I've spoken to some of his strongest supporters. What I've said to them is, why did he wait all this long before jumping his feet in the river? Because this river is deep, right? You have to have a national following. Look, everybody who's a professional, has a career, has made a name for themselves. They're well known in some kind of enterprise. That's his enterprise. He's a lawyer. He's a human rights lawyer, social justice advocates and activists. People have known him for that. But the election is more than just Monrovia. The election is more than just Nimba. You may say, well, those are the largest regions that can make a candidate consequential. Councillor Gongolo, as a person, is a very consequential, very fine son of Liberia. I've listened to the man. He made an argument. It was very forceful. I don't know where he was. He said, listen, the crux of Liberia's problem here are two things: rule of law and morality or immorality. I think he was trying to say, listen, if we're honest, we're less corrupt, we have integrity, and we respect the laws, we respect the institutions, we can address everything else. And that really resonated with me, So that's fine. But you do need to raise money. People say he doesn't have money to run for office. So hire this person. So that person volunteer. I don't have money. I'm not here to say I have money. That's why I'm in this race. But I have good vision for Liberia. I will run the best administration, and it may be the case. But you have to put that political organization that I spoke about earlier together. And maybe he does have that. I see in the diaspora, people are organizing. I think he's here right now, if I have it right, and he's been making the tour. That's well and good. But a lot of us here, a lot of our people in the diaspora don't vote. They may have sway, they may influence elections. Back home, they go and campaign and send money and raise resources. Diaspora folks have their role to play. But you have to focus back home, and he is focused. So he's just coming here for the first, tour, and it's necessary because he has supporters here. He has to raise funds here, right? But I think in order to get there, he needs a very solid political organization to sit and think about his messaging and his vision. First, vision, because message comes out of vision. We've heard some of that. I've seen some write-up, the very good ideas in there. But this is a presidential politics. This is presidential election. So Councillor Gongolo has to demonstrate that it's not just some candidate that is there to muddy the water for somebody else, or that, to participate in negotiation, a second round prospects for others, or be the kingmaker. So he has to demonstrate that that's not what he's there for. And you say he said that already, like, I'm not there, to be second to someone, and that's people may be insinuating, right? But it's one thing to say, it's the other thing to show. Say, show me the money. Don't tell me about it. Show me what you can do, right? I mean, talk and do. Show me that you have the organization. Show me that you have or you can have the resources. You can have the organization that matters. And then you have the message. And then go to places where you may not have following and win people. Because listen, sometimes the margin of victory is very Liberia's, 50 plus one, right? Yeah. That's why I told Mr. Kunney that first round theory is statistically not possible. And people may say it's possible, but in our politics, with the field we have right now, I don't see any one candidate coming on top first round. Forget that. And so you can make yourself easily very competitive if you don't a lot of those groundwork and build the organization and created the momentum for your candidate and for yourself. If you are the candidate, I think that Councillor Gongolo has prospects, but he has a lot of work to do. He has a lot of, I think he has miles ahead of him to reach to where he should have been today. That's how much I want to say.
All right. Okay. Wow. That's I hope he's listening. These are, free advice. This is free. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, Focus on Liberia is just offering free advice to candidates today. I mean, stuff that they should be paid for now is free on this show. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, we're giving it free. They should take notes, and it's just like
right. So Mr. Kunney, now I go to you.
Kunney advice would be better.
What's that?
I said Kunney advice would be better.
I go to you. I go to you, Mr. Kunney, now for Councillor Gongolo's chances. He is he's a human rights advocate, a lawyer, someone who has been there for a long time, and he has the scars to show for it. So in any other country, he will have a really large, following, because of what he has already done on behalf ordinary Liberians, and the message, the stuff that he talks about, anti-corruption, accountability, something that we're not used to, right? So, but what is the issue? Ahmed just laid out and correctly expressed that he has miles to go. Do you agree with that? And if you do, what does he need to do to turn the tide?
Well, certainly, Councillor Gongolo is one of our finest. He is a senior brother. He's somebody that I respect very, very deeply. But I think Ahmed pointed to most of the challenges that confront the councillor. And one that I want to emphasize is the issue of organization, political organization. I think the councillor wants to be a candidate for the Liberian People's Party. That is a political party that has been fighting organizational issues since its founding, 1984. The party has now truly been structured. When the party was organized, 1984, it was banned, and most of the leaders fled into exile. And then they returned. Some of them returned during the period of the interim government, but it was not a political time. And then most returned the 2005-2006 election. But again, as it is unique to that party, the more time they get together, the more they divide themselves. So the LPP got fractured in that 2005 election, and the party has since, not really organized to form a cohesive political force. So one of the challenges the councillor faces is the reorganization of the Liberian People's Party, which is his base party. The broom that he carries is the symbol of the Liberian People's Party. So he needs that kind of reorganization. Certainly, I think he has the message, but he needs that organization. In the phase of a fractured political unit, I think it would be difficult for the councillor to make a breakthrough in the current political climate. Even if the LPP was united, it would still be a challenge, much more if it is not united. And I think that one of the criticism I have against the brother during the administration of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to her credit, she employed a fair number of partisans of the Liberian People's Party. The expectation was that these partisans that were now working in Madam Sirleaf government will have used that time to organize, to organize the Liberian People's Party, make it stronger. But for reasons unknown, they all left the party like that until the 12 years of Madam Sirleaf, and the party is just basically in name, struggling to get organized. So all politics is local. You have to have a political institution to sell you. So I think that's one of the major challenges. But he's a very decent Liberian. He's someone that has struggled for the country. He, like you say, he has the scars to prove it. He's a patriot. In my opinion, he's a patriot. Yeah. But there are these challenges that lies ahead. And really, to be honest with you, when I'm making my analysis as to the first round victory, with all due respect,
there we go again.
When I'm making my analysis to the first round, with all due respect to the councillor, those things are not really a factor in the calculation, because I really don't see him, making a major dent among the electorate. Not because of any fault of his own. But again, we got to look at records. Councillor Gongolo is not the first progressive to put himself forward since the post-war era. Even the father of the progressive, Dr. Toba Natibote, put himself forward. What was the record the Liberian people gave him?
Yeah.
You got to find that out. So we should be discussing these things fully aware of, historical facts.
Yeah.
After Dr. Tipote, the chief, how they call it, sophist of the progressive movement, Dr. Famule,
Yeah.
put himself forward. What did the Liberian people give Dr. Famule? So I'm reading from those notes, and I'm not that optimistic when it comes to Councillor Gongolo.
History is in context, Mr. Kunney. The context may not be the same.
Oh no, I agree. I'm just saying we should take those historical factors. We should look at them.
But Ahmed,
making our decision.
what Mr. Kunney is saying, I mean, it does, to a large extent, does make sense if you look at the progression of things. Ever since the 1980s, 1989, 85, and to now, every progressive, every member of the especially the LPP or former member of the LPP that have put themselves forward, they've probably not won more than 5%.
Even Bacchus Matthews. What was the verdict of the Liberian people?
Yeah, take Bacchus Matthews. Yeah. What was the record exactly? So
because I keep saying politics is perception.
Any other country?
You've done correct that. Bacchus Matthew, I think the thing that crippled them was the 1979 rice riot and what happened following that, eventually the coup. So some people felt that they were rabble rousers and troublemakers, and so they were playing to the educated class and things like that. They spoke similar rhetoric, pro-poor, right? But they didn't really grassroots, the masses. This whole masses rhetoric that was from them and Moja, right? And that we hear today and University of campus.
But the councillor is the current president of Moja.
One of the intellectuals that I really, like, it's Dr. Henry Bourma family. I mean, he's a true patriot, true son of the land. But every time he's put himself forward, I mean, look at the performance. It's been, abysmal. So Liberian people, I guess they're saying, they're not patriotism, we'll eat. I mean, so it's like,
people don't want you to just intellectualize.
Yes,
So you intellectualize, but you have to concretize. You have to demonstrate that I can solve the basic bread and butter issues in here. Yeah. So anyway,
my goodness. Yeah, so
if I can make a comment in passing, I know I listen to Ahmed and Weah. I tend to agree with most of the points Ahmed raised and partially some of the issues Weah raised. I think both of them tend to agree on the need for proper restructuring organization around Councillor Gongolo. I mean, I think that's a keen and fair observation. It's also fair because someone who, like Ahmed said, didn't start 2 years ago or didn't start 1 year ago. So it's a work in progress. It's an evolving issue. There are different structure. Even like in the US, the Gongolo support group just started like one single group. Now you have the 4 different groups in the US already. People pumping their chest up that we're going to do this, okay? People who were once, even some people were with Alexander Cummings or Boakai, CDC, they're crossing over that. Look, we don't need anything. We're not looking for a job, but we think this guy, idea is the energy he has and his record to fight corruption that we think has held back our country from making progress. We think he means well. He's saying things that he has lived it. That here, I'm gonna have one house of my own. That house is in my village. As president, I'm not gonna build any new house. I will just live where I live now. And this is what and I think Liberians love that honesty from their leaders. They like to hear it because he has lived that life, and he doesn't, he could have chosen to be Van Sherman. He could have chosen to be any lawyer in Liberia and make so much money, just go for the money. But he has been defending people who government, the powerful people in society go against, even almost at the perils of his own life. He's done that. And I think Liberians will look at our record. It's true. And like Ahmed said, you have to look at history in context. To just conclude that, yes, Tipute has a very fine progressive history. Dr. Formula has a fine progressive history. But they made different kinds of sacrifice. During Chancellor regime, Councillor Gongolo, along with others, made different kinds of sacrifice. Okay, and I think that is recent and fresh on the minds of many young people. Okay, as compared to those who are active in the 70s. In the 70s, you was a young person, basically a follower, being indoctrinated, right? Dr. Searle was his professor, Famula and others were teaching, they were all students. So there was a different era. In the 90s, it was a different era. And he was there in the trenches with the young people who were just coming up. Now, in the new millennium, he's been also there, even under L.M. Johnson's regime. The guys in power today, Kunney, powerful group, the CDC, he was there defending Jefferson Koji, Molba Molu, Vandala Patrick, the list go on. He was there. When the 19 Grand Julians were in jail, he used to sleep in his law office. He said, I'm not going to go home because he could not even find any lawyer to join him. He has to sleep there to do research through, or he put his private law practice on hold for 2 years. He was just on the Grand Julian case to defend them. He said, I gave my life when people's constitutional rights have been violated. That's what I will fight for. And I think there are people in Grand Julian. And he was adopted as a son of Grand Julian. I mean, if you see the video when he entered Grand Julian January 1st this year, you will shed tears. The oldest person in Grand Julian actually was at that occasion to bless him. So I think he's a progressive. You can look at a record of other progressive in the election, but I think his activities in recent time, in recent history, not the activities of the 70s, because the issues that progressive fought for in the 70s are not the same issues that we're struggling with today. He has that energy, that passion to go for the issues of today, and he's fighting it. He's fighting for it. So for me, I wouldn't really even counting out that Wilmot is doing, because as a family person, I hear other stuff that are not in public domain. I hear some people say money issue. I would say time shall tell. Whether money is an issue, time shall tell. That's all I can say. Time shall tell. Let's go and let him become a standard bearer. Then we'll see whether money is an issue. Time shall tell. Take for example, he came here just with a phone call that, I'm here in the US. I'm available. When do you have time for us to meet? He met powerful people in the State Department.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thank
This is something our government of Liberia is spending money on to hire lobbyists to do that. This is something even Alexander Cummings is spending money on to hire lobbyists to do it. He made a phone call and he got that. So he didn't have to raise money for that. Okay.
Gongolo, thank you. We have to really, really come back. This has been a really interesting conversation around these key political figures. Don't get us wrong here. All of these candidates are important candidates in this race. These candidates are close to the presidency. So that's why we're reviewing them today. And we hope we've done our job of, giving some free advice. So at this time, we will take read a couple of comments. We're about to close, so we will combine our Tabata session with our closing. Darlene Warwick says, Wilmot County, are you relocating to Monrovia to enjoy your CDC government and LEC? Give up the Food stamps. Next comment. Do we have another comment? Howard Mesga, we want Patriots plus many others who believe in the WECC and bring justice. We the victim families of Liberia. You support a joker who is incapable to perform and go to other people running Liberia. Who are you to speak of incompetence? My goodness. Facebook user said if the UP has made that mistake by not fielding a candidate in Lofa County, Lofa wouldn't have gone down well with the parties and the people of the country and the people of the county. Foreign guy said Boakai folks are going to blind again with lots of endorsement and radio posts winning. Henrietta Morgan said, thank God your pathway is different because I know we all have the pathway, old or young, rich or poor. So we're gonna shut this.
There's one more there.
Yeah, come on, you can read that.
Dr. Kasser has not stolen from any poor Liberian, the masses of Liberia to carry it abroad and live luxurious life. He didn't bring war to kill innocent people. If he stole money from abroad to come and help the poor, then should he be welcome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
while you were running around with a so-called advocacy, Mr. Cummings was busy doing real job. And while he was like that, he contributed more to Liberia than when you were in your than you were in your 29 years of your advocacy.
All right, so we're gonna call it a day, but we have our important Tabata session, so we'll combine that with our final thoughts. So we'll start with Kehleboe Gongolo.
I'd like to
what's your Tabata of the week and then your closing?
Let me start with my closing, then I come to Tabata.
Okay.
Well, firstly, let me say it has been a fun discussion. It's always fascinating to be on FOL. I love the way the discussion is structured. We have ample time to talk. So I hope to be here, back again. But the discussion tonight, I think there are a few things that we should focus on probably next time to clarify some of the conceptual issues. Because we those of you, when you run the media platform, we need to try as much as possible to be fair with the information we give out, because we could mislead people to death, So to believe that the opposition in Liberia, when we talk of opposition, it is in the CPP. I think
30 seconds,
I think it's misleading, and we should get away from that. That's how much I would say. In terms of Tabata, it's always surprising to me. Sometimes it doesn't make sense when I hear my big brother or Wilmot say the intelligentsia are the problem. They don't understand, they don't appreciate what Weah is doing. And and he said he's not part of the intelligentsia when he's one of the most educated people. So I don't know whether he's one of those who don't understand what Weah is doing.
Thank you. Mr. Wilmot, what's your final thoughts in Tabata?
My final thought, just one of the comments I just wanted to highlight one of the comments that was read, and that reflect the Cummings camp, the Cummings incondescension of Liberians and Liberia. We talking about the man never lifted his finger to do anything, even for Liberia in the diaspora. And somebody is saying when you were advocating, you were doing a real job. So this is the mindset, of this Cummings group. They look at every Liberian with disdain, with condescension. Whenever you mention the name Cummings, they are God. The fact of the matter is, this man did not do anything for Liberia in the diaspora in their quest for immigration rights, in their quest for dual citizenship. They can't refute that, so they call him people names. And so In closing, like I said, like I've always said, there is a first round victory blinking for George Manning Weah. Key elements of the opposition are in disarray. If they're not calling one another names,
we heard that before. What's your tabata? We're trying to get out of this place, please.
My man, I got plenty of tabata, but I'll just give you one.
We're trying to get out of here.
My tabata is the Vanguard Student Unification Party.
Okay.
This party has advocated for the renovation of the university. The university authorities, they are renovating the university, within the limit of their resources. Now they're not talking about the renovation again. They say they want a receipt. They want to see the receipt for accountability of the. I mean, what kind of advocacy is that? Students, you want something the government provides.
What you taught them?
They want to be auditors now. They don't want a building renovated now. They want to be auditors.
Okay.
That's the tabata.
Thank you. That's a good one. Ahmed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree that it was a good discussion, although a lot of pontification and detours, and but it's always very good to be here and talk about our country and interact with those who are listening, those who are commenting, who are actively engaged. So I want to thank all of them. I want to say, elections, particularly presidential elections, are not just about electing one individual. And as I said, we believe the problem is solved. Just as I encourage people to build strong electoral organization that will take them to victory, so too, when you become elected, the people you surround yourself with, the team you form, you establish, how diverse is that team, how competent are these people, how experienced are they, how much understanding of the country's problems, the people's problems, the needs that there are for leadership to address. All of those are very substantive things that we ought to encourage these candidates, those of you who are the advisors to them, who are in their parties or siblings or relatives to them or friends to them. And I have to say, it's also a very challenging thing for somebody to say, I want to run and just put their name and their family's name out there. But so politics in Liberia is characterized by personality-based centric politics. Let's go away from that. Let's build a system that addresses our problems and develops our country and drives them forward. So if anything we say here, I personally said, and somebody's offended or is inaccurate, call me out on it. I'm now without flaws. I'll come back and correct the facts and, resituate the matter in context. The tabata is this, Mr. Kunney, one-time victory theory.
One round, not one time,
one round victory theory.
Just criticize it till you're calling the right way.
One round is a complete tabata. Given the field we have, you still have the cassette factor. We don't know if it's close or not. You have Gongloe, you have people in the race, and then you say, so it's not statistically, it's not positive unless you want to be green. What was that candidate in 1918? What was it? Who ran and got more votes than the registered voters? Or who was it? Don't. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
Don't get people to start thinking that perhaps the CDC people want to rig the election, or they're gonna say, that's a tabata to me. I think that statistically,
we have discussion offline on it, and then you understand.
We should, because we like the statisticians in the room. We look at the voter rolls. We look at registered voters, the history, the record, recent history of 2017. It just wasn't there. It's not going to be there 2023. So I'll close with that. Thank you all. It was pleasant to be here with you all.
Thank you. And my tabata is, I want to, look at something I was watching just last week, in Eastern DRC, in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. There's now, the outbreak of war again, for I don't know how many times, maybe the millionth time, whatever. So there was a young lady that was interviewed, and she said that there's a group called the Mai, and they are rebels. So she's joined this since she was 11 years old, she's about 19 or 20 now. She has known nothing in life. She's known nothing but war. I mean, nothing. And you know, that part of the country is like almost forgotten. You know, like the central government there's nothing existing there. So it gives room for all of these marauding, gangs of rebels, to live and feast in that area. So that, I think, is my Tabata, just looking at Africa in general. Gentlemen, thank you for a very lively discussion. You've all done justice to this subject, and I do thank you very much. And so, in closing, as we usually close, whether you are a sedition, supporting the one round theory, the pro government, whether you're a unity partisan, whether you support the ANC, or whether you support Mr. Gongolo, or whether you're an independent, in the middle, someone like myself, whether you're a dad, we're all Liberians, and so with that, we're going to close now, and we'll see you all next week. We apologize to our audience. We weren't able to read all of the messages because of time. Next time we will. Thank you ever so much. So long.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.